Hey everyone, in today's video, I want to show you how to integrate a Filestack file uploader into a Flask app. So Filestack is something you can use for free. You can sign up for free here, and then once you're signed in, you can follow along with the tutorial. To show you what we'll be building in this video today, basically I have this thing here where I can have a description for some files. So I'll say 3 files. I can click the upload button and it will display the Filestack file picker. I can select 3 items, click upload. They appear here, and then I can save them to the database, and then I can have access to them here by like clicking one. The data design checklist here, and I can see what it actually is. So I just want to say this video is sponsored by Filestack. So I want to thank them for sponsoring this video. And even though it is sponsored, I do use Filestack for one of my projects. I think it's a pretty good service. And I hope that if you want to integrate it into your Flask app, this video helps you. So with all that said, let's get into building this example app to demonstrate how to integrate Filestack into a Flask app. Okay, so to start this project, let me first show you where I'm starting from. So here I have this single page that just displays this form, doesn't do anything yet. If I go to index.html, you'll see the HTML for this. It's pretty simple, doesn't do anything like I said. I have an include for the script.js here. And if I go to script.js, it's empty. So during this video, I'll be writing code here. And then for the Flask part, I have this dunder init, which registers a blueprint called main. That main comes from my routes.py. I have a single route called index, and it returns index.html, the one I just showed you. I have a file for models.py, but I don't have an actual model in there yet. And then for extensions, I just instantiate Flask SQL Alchemy, but I don't actually use it yet. So here .env, I have python.env installed, so this will be used later. For Flask env, I have Flask app defined as project, which is this directory, and Flask debug as true, so everything works. So now let me go over to the dashboard for Filestack. You need the API key, which you can see in this upper right-hand corner over here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to integrate the file picker because that's the most important part. So here I can just click on this link, integrate Filestack file picker in your application. And here we have 3 choices. I'm building a web app, so I'm going to click web here. And then I need to include this script. So I'll just go ahead and copy this and put it inside of my index.html. I'll put it at the bottom here after my import for styles.css. I can also put it at the bottom, doesn't really matter. Next, I want to trigger the file picker opening when I click the button here. So I want to be able to click on this button and it shows me the actual file selector. So if I go back here, I can just copy this code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside of my script. So I'll go to script.js and I'll just put it here. And what I can do is I can bring my API key in. So let me go back over to here and just copy the API key. And then here I can just put it as a string. And now if I go back to my app and refresh, and we see the Filestack file picker immediately shows up. So here I can select a file to upload, and you see I have choices for files here in this particular directory. Now, right now, as soon as I load the page, the file picker shows up. I don't want that to happen, so let me go ahead and change that first. So what I want to happen is when I click on my button for upload, so let me just find where I have that. So I have a button here called add button. This can also be upload button. Let me make that a little more clear. So upload button. What I can do is I could put an event listener on that. So in my JavaScript here, what I'll do is I'll say document.get element by ID, and then I'll just put in the ID for that. So it's upload button. And then I'm going to add an event listener to it, and I'm adding the click events, and I just need to create a function here. It's actually going to take in the event because this is in a form and I want to prevent this from submitting the form since it is a button in the form. So I can do event.prevent default there, and that way it doesn't submit the form when I do it. And then I can start the picker. So I'll put the client.picker.open here, and I'll put the Filestack init above. So let me just go ahead and save that. And now I'll do this again. I just refresh the page, is no longer appearing. Now when I click on the upload button, it appears. So now that this is working, let me just show you how this works. I can click on a file, let's say data model design checklist, click upload. And then when it finishes uploading, it closes, and I'll be able to go over to the dashboard here. I can go down to content browser, click it, and I see the thing I just uploaded. So data model design checklist. So I just added that, and it is immediately stored on Filestack. So you actually have different options on how to store your files. They can be stored on Filestack, they can be stored elsewhere. But for this video, I'll just keep them on Filestack. And it works in a lot of cases because they do have a CDN. So anyone from around the world will be able to download the files from here pretty quickly once it gets cached in the CDN. So the way to integrate this into a Flask app is basically having access to the IDs that are generated whenever I upload files to Filestack. So what I'll do is I'll go back over to my code and I will create an object called options. So const options. And here what needs to happen is I need to define a function that will run whenever the upload finishes. And what that's called in Filestack is on upload done. So this is a callback. And what it's going to do is I'll have a function here and it's going to take in a single value. So we'll call this data. And I'll have access to this data, and it's basically going to give me information about what was just uploaded. So for now, what I'll do is I'll just console log data so we can take a look at it. And then once I have those options, I need to pass it to the picker when it gets created. So I can just copy options here and pass it to picker. So it just goes as an argument to picker. So now if I go here and refresh and then open up my console, I can click upload and I can select a file, let's say Django cheat sheet, and upload. I'll wait for it to finish. And now we see down here, I have some information, right? So I have two arrays. I have files failed, there's nothing in there, and I have files uploaded. And then it has some information that I may want. So it has the file name, it has the handle, which is the ID that Filestack generates, has the MIME type, and other information. So what I want to do is I want to save both the file name and the handle. I could save some other things, but those are the two things that I want to save. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my code. And the approach to doing this is basically I want to add some hidden inputs that I can then grab in Flask so I can do something with that information on my backend. So what I can do is I can loop over those files uploaded because it's not always going to be one, and I'll show you that in a second. For now, it's just one. For file of, let's say, data and then files uploaded, what I can do in here is I can take some of that data and basically pass it to a hidden input. So what I'll do is I'll create the element. So I'll say let's input equal documents create element. And there are multiple ways of creating elements in JavaScript. This is the approach I'll take in this video, but there are some other legitimate ones. So I'm creating an input element, and then I want to set the attribute to be hidden. So type and then hidden. And I also want to give it a name. So the name attribute for this hidden field will be, let's say file upload, file dash upload. And then I also want to give it a value. So set attribute, and I want to pass the handle and the file name. And because this is an example, what I can do is I can just pass everything. I can stringify it and then pass it to the input because I can't put like a JSON object directly in the hidden input without making it a string first. So I can call json.stringify on the file, which comes from data.files uploaded. And I'll show you what this looks like in a second. And then I can finally append this to the IDs that I have. So here I have this file stack handles. So I'll just put it there. So get element by ID file stack handles, and then append child of input, right? So I'm basically creating a new element here, putting the values on it, and then I'm appending it to the DOM. So while I'm here, I can also visually display what was created. So I'll say li and then document.create element. And this will be an li element, a list item. And then I want to set the inner text on the list item to be the file.file name. And then I want to add this to the DOM. So I'll copy this, and instead of input here, it will be li. And here I have uploaded file names. So that's the ID that I'm going to append to. And I'll just save that here. Okay, so now let me go back to the app and just reload and I can click upload again. I can select a file, let's say Flask cheat sheet, and I'll hit upload. So it closes. We see that Flask cheat sheet appears. So this is the list item that I created. You can't see the hidden input because it's hidden. But if I inspect and look for the section where I have the file stack handles, so I'll just go here. We see if I highlight this, I have this hidden input. The name is file upload, and then the value is actually a JSON object. It's truncating it, but the full thing is there when I actually go to send it. So that's the basic idea. So now I want to grab this information in Flask. So let me go back over to my Flask stuff. I can go to routes. And what I can do is I can basically first import requests. So I can have the post requests. So requests method posts. And I need to make this work for both get and post. So post and then get. And what I want to do in here is I want to grab that information that I retrieved from Filestack. And then what I can do is I can just print that out for now. So later I'm going to save it to the database, but for now I can do request.form and then file-upload. And then I also have this input here for a description of the files. So all the files that are uploaded together will get the same description. And here it's called description as the name. So I can also print that. So requests.form description. Okay, and then once I do that, I just want to redirect back to this page. So return redirect URL4 and then index. I need to import URL4 and redirect here. And let's give it a shot now. So I'll refresh the page. I'll click upload and I will select the Django cheat sheet. I'll hit upload here. So I see Django cheat sheet here and I can say this is only the Django cheat sheet. I can hit save files and this is a minor error. But if I go up before the errors, I can see the JSON object that I sent over, and I can also see the description. So the reason why this failed is because instead of index, it should just be main.index, but everything else here is fine. So we see the JSON object, and then we see the description. So this JSON object is actually not a JSON object yet, it's a string, and I need to parse it first or load it. So what I can do is I can import JSON, and then I can say json.loads and just pass in this. So it's expecting a string that is a JSON object. And then I can have this as file data as a variable name. And then I can also have description. So let me just move description down because later I will be putting this into a database. And that's it. So when I use file data, I can do something like this. So file data, and then let's say file name is the thing that I want to print. So now let me go back and I will select the data model design checklist, click upload, and then checklist, save files. It refreshes properly this time because I fixed the redirect. And then here we see it prints out data model design checklist pretty printed.pdf, which is exactly the file name that I uploaded. So now let's build a model so we can save this to the database. So I can go to models here and I'll create a model called file. So db.model. And then this is going to have an ID. So db.column, db integer for this. And then primary key is true. And the things I want to save about the file are three things. I want to save the handle, which, like I said, is the ID generated by Filestack. So this will just be a basic string column. Let's just put 50 characters, even though it won't be that long. Also, it has a description. So I'll also make this 50 characters. And then finally, it has the original file name. So db column, db string 50. Very simple. So now let me start up Flask shell and let me see if it has my DB object. It doesn't. So let me go over to dunder init and I'll just create this in my create app, or I'll init the app. So DB init app and pass in app here. And I also need a configuration value. So I'll go to .env and I'll say Flask SQL Alchemy database URI equals SQLite 3 slashes and then db.sqlite3. And this will put it inside of a folder called instance. And because I have this env file, what I want to do is I want to import everything from here, and it's just going to truncate the Flask and leave the rest by using from prefix env when I instantiate my app or right after I instantiate my app. So I can do app.config.from prefixed env, and it will load that in automatically. So now let me try restarting Flask shell. Let me make sure everything is there. So db is there, is file there? File's not there. What I can do is I can import. So I can say from project import models. And I may need to go one further. I should say from project.models import file. And then I can do db.create all. And I can now go into the database that was created. So inside of instance, and just see if the file table is there. So yeah, I see file is there. So the table was created properly. So now, like I said, I want to save that information to the database. So now let me go back over to the route and I'll import that model that I just created. So from .models import file. And then here in the post section, I can say f equals file. And then the handle is going to be file underscore data handle. Remember, this is from the JSON object. And then I'll have the file name, which is going to be file data file name. And then finally, I'll have the description. So description, and this will just be the description that I have here. So then I can add F to the session. So db.session add, db.session commit, and then I can just remove this print statement here. And also I need to import db. So from .extensions import db here. Now I can reload and click upload. Let's say Flask cheat sheets, click upload here. And then I'll say Flask save file. And now I can go and check my database. So select star from file, and we see the one file has been saved. So here I have the handle, I have Flask as a description, and Flask underscore cheat sheet.pdf is the name of the file. So we know we can save this properly. Now let's go ahead and display all the files that I have in the database, like in the HTML here. So what I can do is I can go down to this section and I want to put the files that I have in the database here. So I'll have a for loop and I'm going to add the files here in a second, but I can say for f in files in for. I simply want to create a list item. So li, where the title is the description for the file. So f.description. So this is coming from SQL Alchemy. And then the class for this is going to be list group item for this particular version of Bootstrap. And then I want to put a link. So this link is going to be HTTPS, and then it's going to be cdn.filestackcontent.com. So this is where all the files in the FileStack CDN can be found. And then all you have to pass is the handle. So I can say f.handle here. So slash f.handle, which will be dynamic, of course. And then here I'll have the file name. So I can say f.filename. And it's already closing out the anchor and the li. Okay, so now I need to pass these to the template. So here in the get case, what I can do is I can say file.query.all just to give me all the files. So this would be files equals that, and I'll just pass it to the template. So files equals files. So now let's run this and reload. And we see I have Flask cheat sheet here. If I click on it, I see the Flask cheat sheet. So this works in exactly the way that we want it to work. So now let me just handle the case where I have multiple files. So if I go back over to the script, I have an option that I can add in here. So right now I have this callback and I can remove the console.log. I don't need it. But you see here, we're creating a loop. and it assumes that you can have multiple files, but at the moment it only supports one because by default it's one. But if I set max files here and I set it to 3 and then comma there, now I'll be able to upload multiple files. So this part will still work. However, inside of my routes, I have to make a small change. So right now, this assumes only one file, but that's not really the case. It should be multiple files. So instead of just doing one file, what I can do is I can loop over the data that I have here. So to handle this in Flask, what I need to do is loop over this, but not quite this exactly. Instead of request.form and file upload, it's going to be request.form.getList. So I'll have multiple file uploads because of the hiddens, and Flask will take those and create a list out of them. And then for each individual item, I will be able to get the same information that I have down here. So since I'm looping over this, I can say for item in request.form get list, and this should be parentheses instead of square brackets now. And then I can just indent everything here. And inside of JSON loads, I'm simply loading the item. And everything here will be fine. I can move the commit outside of the for loop because it only needs to happen once, but everything else should be fine. So let me go ahead and test this. I'll save it. And then I can do this again, but with more files. So I'll click upload and I'll select the data model design checklist and the Django cheat sheet. I can see both there. I'll upload both. And then I'll say 2 files here and then save. And now we see it added 2 more things to the list here. I can click on the Django cheat sheet. We see the Django cheat sheet there, and I can do the same thing for the other file. And of course, if I hover, I see 2 files and then Flask for the original one. So that's basically the main functionality. Let me just show you how to move this ID outside of the script. So really what I want is I want to put this in my env. I can say Flask file stack app key, and then I can cut that and remove the parentheses. And then inside of the .env file, I'll just put equal that. And I want to get this value inside of the script. So to do that, I need to first put it in the template. So let me go over to index.html and then script. And what I can do is I can just say const, and then we can say the same name. So I'll just take the same name from here. So file stack app key equals, and then I can grab the variable from config. So config is automatically passed to the template. So I can do config and then file stack app key. And then this should be a string. So I can put quotes outside of the ginger brackets. So it should be single quotes because I'm using double quotes for the config dictionary. And I'll put a semicolon on the end. So I know this may look weird, and let me put the closing script tag here so it doesn't complain. I know this looks weird, but what happens is it will evaluate the ginger first. So it will put the actual file stack app key here and then assign it to this constant. And then I'll have access to this constant inside of the script. So first, let me show you it not working. So I click upload and it no longer works because I messed up the init. So now the original functionality is happening again. So what I can do is I can copy this file stack app key and just paste it in here. And now when I refresh, it should be there. I think I need to restart my app first because it needs to load in the new value. But if I click view source and go down, we see the app key is here. So now if I click upload, everything works again. So that's the easy way to get your configuration from Flask inside of some JavaScript. And I can do the same thing with max files. So I'll have another constant called file stack max files, and I'll define that in a second. And also I can set the sources. So right now I'm just using my local file system for files. But what I can do is I can set the source of the file. So if I want to use Dropbox or Google Drive or Instagram, I can use all those things and bring in files from those locations. So for that, it's from sources, and I'll say file stack sources here. So let me go ahead and define those in the same way. So first, inside of the env, I'll have Flask, Filestack, max files, and I'll put it to 3. And then Flask underscore Filestack sources. And this is going to be a list. So I can say local file system, and I'll have that be the only one for now. And then I'll add another one just to show you how it changes. But first, let me go to my index.html and add those values. So const file stack max files. And it's going to be just like this. So I can just copy and paste. But instead of app key, it will be max files. And finally, file stack sources. And then likewise, it's going to be like this. File stack underscore sources. But because this is a list, it doesn't quite go into the HTML as is. So I have to use safe because Ginger will try to escape it and I don't want it to be escaped. And I can just put the semicolon on the end. And just looking at this, I realized that this shouldn't be a string. This doesn't need to be a string. So this is going to be a list and this is going to be an integer. So let me go ahead and save that and refresh the page. And now let's try to upload. And we see it only allows me to select from my local file machine, which is what I've been doing. But if I go here in the .env, and now let me add, let's say Instagram as another source and restart my app so it loads. And then refresh, click upload. And now we see Instagram here. So I have my device and Instagram as choices. And you can look at the Filestack docs to know all the sources that they have, but that's the basic idea. So those are all the things I wanted to show you when you go to integrate Filestack into a Flask app. I know it's not quite obvious on how to do it, but I hope this video gives you a good start on how to actually integrate it into your Flask app. So if you have any questions on anything that I've done here, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you have subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.